I'm Holly, 32 years old. 6 weeks ago, I woke up from a 9-hour spinal surgery, and the first thing I saw was 73 missed calls. My vision was still blurry from anesthesia when I played my father's voicemail. His voice was calm, almost cheerful. "We sold your condo to pay for your sister's wedding. You were unconscious, so we signed for you. $425,000. Gone." My sister's wedding was in 3 weeks. I could barely walk. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else. But lying in that recovery room, staring at the ceiling, I made one phone call. What happened at that wedding? No one could have expected it. Before I tell you everything, if this story grabs you, take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely want to know how this ends. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your location and local time in the comments. Now let me take you back 7 weeks, to the day I got my surgery date. I'm Holly, 32 years old, and 3 weeks ago, at my little sister's wedding, I did something that 200 people will never forget. It started with a 9-hour spine surgery. I woke up to 73 missed calls and a voicemail from my father. They had sold my condo. $425,000. While I was unconscious on the operating table, my parents forged my signature to pay for Megan's extravagant wedding. I could barely walk, but I made one phone call. And what happened next? No one saw coming. Before I continue, if you find this story worth hearing, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you truly want to know what happened. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Drop a comment and let me know. Now, let me take you back 6 weeks, to the day I got my surgery date. 7 weeks ago, I sat in my neurologist's office and heard the words I'd been waiting 3 years to hear. "We have a surgery date. Herniated discs, L4 and L5. The pain had been my constant companion since I was 29. Some days I couldn't get out of bed. Other days I forced myself to work through it because bills don't care about your spine. Finally, relief was coming. March 15th, 9-hour procedure. 6 weeks of recovery. I called my parents that evening. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. "Mom, I got the surgery date." "Oh, that's nice, honey." Her voice was distracted. I could hear Megan laughing in the background. "When is it?" "March 15th. I'll need someone to drive me home after." "March? Holly, that's right in the middle of wedding prep. You know Megan's getting married in April." I paused. "I know, but this surgery—" "You'll figure it out, sweetie. You always do." A muffled conversation then. "Megan needs me. We're picking out centerpieces. Talk later?" She hung up before I could respond. I sat there, phone in hand, staring at nothing. I wasn't surprised. That was the worst part. I wasn't even a little bit surprised. When I graduated college summa cum laude, my parents weren't there. Megan had an audition, a casting call for a local car dealership commercial. She didn't get the part. When I bought my condo at 27, my father's first words were, "Why didn't you help your sister instead? She needs money more than you need another investment." 32 years. I had learned not to expect anything from them. But I hadn't learned to stop hoping. Not completely. That was my mistake. Let me tell you about my sister. Megan is 28. She's been an influencer for 4 years. 12,000 followers, mostly bought. She's never held a job longer than 3 months. When she turned 21, my parents bought her a car. When I turned 21, I was working double shifts at a restaurant to pay my tuition. "Holly can take care of herself," my mother always said. "Megan needs more support." Support. That's what they called it. I called it something else. The week before my surgery, I arranged everything myself. I hired a home care aide for the first 2 weeks of recovery. I meal prepped. I set up a bed in my living room so I wouldn't have to climb stairs. Not once did my parents offer to help, but they called 3 times asking if I could contribute to the wedding fund. "It's going to be beautiful, Holly," my mother gushed during the last call. "The venue alone is $80,000, and Megan found the most gorgeous dress, $22,000, but she deserves it." "That's a lot of money, Mom." "Daniel's family is very wealthy. We can't look poor." Daniel, Megan's fiancé. I'd met him twice. He seemed nice enough, quiet, a bit naive. His parents owned a chain of regional banks. I already gave you $20,000 for the engagement party, I reminded her. That was months ago, Holly. This is different. I have surgery in 5 days. I can't. Fine. Her voice turned cold. We'll figure it out without you, like always. She hung up. Like always. I stared at my phone, then at the condo around me. 8 years of savings. 8 years of overtime and freelance gigs and skipped vacations. This place was proof that I existed without their permission. I had no idea how much that proof was about to cost me. People ask me why I cared so much about that condo. $425,000. In San Diego, that barely gets you 800 square feet. A small kitchen, 1 bedroom, a balcony the size of a yoga mat. But that condo was never about square footage. When I was 12, my father told me I wasn't the pretty one in the family. That's okay, he said, like he was being kind. You're the smart one. You'll have to work harder, but you'll be fine. Work harder. That became my religion. I worked harder in school. Scholarships covered most of college. What they didn't cover, I paid myself. I worked harder at my job, climbing from junior developer to senior engineer in 6 years. I worked harder than anyone I knew. And when I was 27, I walked into a bank and signed papers that made me a homeowner. No one helped me. No one co-signed. No one handed me a check. For the first time in my life, I had something that was entirely mine. That condo was 8 years of my life, compressed into walls and windows and a tiny balcony where I drank coffee every morning. It wasn't just an investment. It was evidence. Evidence that I had value, even if my family refused to see it. And there was something else they didn't know. 5 years ago, my parents almost lost their house. $180,000 in debt, foreclosure notices, desperate phone calls at midnight. I gave them $30,000. Every penny I had saved for a down payment on a bigger place. We'll pay you back, my father promised. They never did. They never even mentioned it again. So when I went into that surgery, I had no idea my parents had finally found a way to take what little I had left. March 15th, surgery day. I remember the fluorescent lights of the pre-op room, the nurse checking my IV, the anesthesiologist explaining what would happen. Count backward from 10, she said. I got to 7. 9 hours later, I opened my eyes in the recovery room. Everything hurt, my back, my throat from the intubation tube. Even my eyelids felt heavy. A nurse smiled at me. Surgery went well. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck, I whispered. She laughed softly and handed me my phone. Your family's been calling, a lot. I squinted at the screen. 73 missed calls, 47 text messages. My first thought, something happened to someone. My second thought, Megan's wedding. Something went wrong with the wedding. I opened the voicemail from my father, sent 4 hours into my surgery. His voice was casual, almost cheerful. I would later learn they had planned this for weeks, finding a cash buyer, preparing the documents, timing everything to coincide with my surgery. Holly, honey, it's Dad. So we had a family discussion and, well, we've been working on something. We sold your condo, found a cash buyer a few weeks ago, very motivated, willing to close fast. We signed the final papers on your behalf today since you were unavailable. The money's going toward Megan's wedding. She deserves a beautiful day. And you weren't using that place much anyway, being single and all. You'll understand. Call us when you wake up. Love you. I played it again and again. $425,000. Gone. The nurse noticed my face. Ma'am, are you okay? Do you need pain medication? I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the ceiling and breathed. In, out, in, out. Something crystallized inside me. Something cold and clear. I knew exactly what I needed to do. And it started with one phone call, but not to my parents. 2 hours after waking up, I called my father. My hands weren't shaking. My voice was steady. The morphine helped, but mostly it was something else. A clarity that comes when you finally see people for exactly who they are. He picked up on the second ring. Holly, you're awake. How was the surgery? You sold my condo. A pause. Ah, you got my message. While I was unconscious. Well, yes, we needed to move quickly. The buyer? You forged my signature. Another pause. Longer this time. Forged is a strong word, sweetheart. We just facilitated the transaction. You would have agreed anyway. Would I? Of course. Family helps family. What Megan needed, I said slowly, was $425,000 that didn't belong to her. It's not like that. His voice shifted, defensive, familiar. You have a good job. You'll make it back. Megan and Daniel are starting a life together. This wedding will set them up socially. It's an investment in the family. Dad, what you did is a felony. Silence. Forgery. Fraud. Theft. I let each word land. Those are crimes. You're talking to your father like I'm a criminal? His voice rose. After everything we've done for you? All those years of feeding you, housing you? You stopped housing me when I was 18. I've paid my own way since then. This is how you repay us? Repay you for what? For selling my home while I was on an operating table? He sputtered. I heard my mother's voice in the background, sharp and panicked. Holly, you're upset. We'll talk when you're calmer. He started to hang up. Dad, I said quietly, you're going to regret this. The line went dead. He had no idea how right I was. 20 minutes later, my mother called. Holly Marie Sullivan. Her voice was ice. What did you say to your father? The truth. The truth? She laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. The truth is that we sacrificed everything for this family. And you're lying in a hospital bed threatening us? Mom, you stole my home. We borrowed it. There's a difference. You forged my signature. You sold my property. There's no borrowing involved. Stop being dramatic. Her tone shifted to wounded, the familiar pivot. Do you have any idea how stressed I've been? Planning this wedding for months. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof, and now you're making everything worse. I closed my eyes. This playbook was worn thin. Mom, I just had major spinal surgery. I can barely feel my legs. And you're telling me I'm making things worse? Megan is getting married, Holly. This is the most important day of her life. Why can't you just be happy for her? I was happy for her before she took $400,000 from me. She didn't take anything. We made a family decision. Without me. You were unavailable. I was unconscious, she huffed. Same thing. You would have said no anyway. You've always been selfish. I let that word hang in the air. Selfish. 32 years of working, saving, asking for nothing, and I was the selfish one. Mom, I said softly, do you know who owns the house you're standing in right now? She paused. What? The house, where you and Dad live. Do you know who owns it? A confused laugh. We do, obviously. Are you sure? Holly, what are you talking about? You're on drugs. You're not making sense. I'll see you at the wedding, Mom. I hung up. 3 weeks. That's all I needed. The third call I made was to the only family member I trusted. Aunt Patricia picked up on the first ring. Holly, sweetheart, I heard what happened. Her voice was warm, but underneath it I heard something else. Anger. I'm so sorry. Richard called me an hour ago trying to spin some story about a family investment. I told him he was out of his mind. So you know. I know my brother is a fool, she sighed heavily. I warned him, Holly, years ago. I told him the way he treated you would come back to bite him. He didn't listen. Patricia was my father's older sister, 65, retired accountant, and the only person in my family who had ever looked at me and seen someone worth respecting. Aunt Patricia, I need your help. Anything. Can you keep a secret for 3 weeks? A pause, then. What are you planning? I told her. Not everything, just enough. The surgery recovery, the wedding timeline, the phone call I was about to make to my lawyer. When I finished, the line was quiet. Holly, her voice was careful. Are you sure? Once you do this, there's no going back. I know. They'll never forgive you. I almost laughed. Aunt Patricia, they sold my home while I was fighting for my life on an operating table. Forgiveness stopped being on the table the moment that happened. She was silent for a long moment. Then, what do you need from me? I'm going to give you an envelope. Keep it safe. If anything happens to me, if they try anything else, Bring it to the wedding. The wedding? I'll be there, but I want backup. She let out a breath. You've always been the strongest one in this family, Holly. Don't let them break you. I won't, I promised. I meant it. Now I need to tell you something I've never told anyone. In 2021, I got a phone call from an old college friend who worked at a bank. Not just any bank, the one that held my parents' mortgage. Holly, I probably shouldn't be telling you this. Her voice was low, conspiratorial. But your parents are about to lose their house. They're $180,000 in debt, foreclosure in 60 days. $180,000. Even after the $30,000 I'd given them a year earlier, money they'd sworn was just to get back on their feet, they'd managed to dig themselves deeper. I remember sitting in my condo, staring at the wall. The same parents who never came to my graduation, who never acknowledged my achievements, who treated me like an afterthought my entire life. They were about to be homeless. I had a choice. Let them fall. Let them finally face the consequences of 30 years of financial recklessness. Let them see what life looked like without a safety net. Or I called a lawyer, a real estate attorney named Marcus Smith. I told him what I wanted to do. You want to buy your parents' debt, he said slowly, and then purchase the house, without them knowing it's you. Yes, that's unconventional. Can it be done? It could, through an LLC, anonymous ownership, legal, clean, invisible. 3 weeks later, I owned my parents' house. They thought some faceless investment company had saved them. They signed a lease to rent the home they'd lived in for 20 years, never knowing their eldest daughter was their landlord. Every month, their rent check went into my account. They had no idea. I didn't do it for revenge. Not then. I did it because, despite everything, I still loved them. I wanted them to have a home, even if they'd never given me one. But now? 4 years later, lying in a hospital bed, knowing what they'd done, that love had finally found its limit. 3 days after surgery, Marcus Smith came to my hospital room. He was a tall man, mid-40s, with the calm demeanor of someone who'd seen every kind of family disaster. He'd been my lawyer since the house purchase, 4 years of keeping my secret safe. I pulled the documents on your condo sale. He set a folder on my bedside table. It's worse than I thought. Tell me. They used a forged power of attorney. The signature doesn't even come close to matching yours. He showed me the paper. My signature looked like a child's imitation. The notary stamp is from a guy in Nevada who's been flagged before for rubber stamping documents without verification. Your father probably found him online. It's a federal offense, but these people exist. Can we reverse the sale? Marcus shook his head. The buyer is a third party, innocent purchaser. They had no idea the documents were fraudulent. Unwinding that sale would take years and wouldn't guarantee you get the property back. I absorbed that. $425,000. Gone. But, Marcus continued, you have options. You could file criminal charges, forgery, fraud, identity theft. Your parents could face serious prison time. What else? He paused, pulled out another document. The house. My parents' house. Your house. He met my eyes. You still own it. Free and clear. And their lease. He checked his notes. Expires on April 19th, 1 week after the wedding. I did the math. April 19th, 1 week after Megan's wedding on April 12th. So the lease expires 1 week after the wedding? Marcus nodded slowly. If you wanted to serve them with a notice to vacate, you could do it. Well, any time. They'd have 30 days from the date of notice. I stared at the ceiling. 30 days. There's something almost poetic about that timing, Marcus said carefully. For the first time since waking up from surgery, I smiled. Draft the notice, I said. I'll tell you when to serve it. 1 week before the wedding, Megan called. I was home by then, moving slowly with a cane, but moving. The pain was manageable. My head was clear. Holly. Her voice was sugar-coated poison. I heard you've been upsetting Mom and Dad. Have I? They said you threatened them, over some money thing. Some money thing? I laughed softly. Megan, they sold my condo, the home I bought with 8 years of savings. Right, she drew the word out. But that was a family decision. You're single, you don't need a place that big. It was 800 square feet. Still, it's not like you have a husband or kids. I let the silence stretch. Megan, did you know where the money came from? Another pause. Then too quickly. I don't get involved in the financial stuff. That's between mom and dad but you knew. I didn't. You suggested it, didn't you? The realization hit me like ice water. You told them I had the condo. You told them I was going into surgery. You knew I'd be unconscious. That's not, I just mentioned, she was stumbling now. I just said you had assets and weren't using them. It was just a suggestion. They made the decision. You pointed them at me like a weapon. You're being dramatic, her voice hardened. You've always been jealous of me, Holly. You're 32 and alone. No one wants you, and now you're trying to ruin my wedding because you can't stand seeing me happy. I closed my eyes, breathed. I'll see you at the wedding, Megan. You better not cause a scene. I wouldn't dream of it. I hung up. She'd painted the target on my back. Now she'd get to watch the arrow fly. The next day, Megan went public. Her Instagram story appeared at 7:43 p.m. A carefully staged photo, mascara-streaked cheeks, quivering lip, sitting in what looked like a bridal boutique. The caption, "When someone in your own family is so jealous of your happiness that they try to destroy your wedding, my sister is threatening to ruin the most important day of my life. Just because she's alone and bitter doesn't mean she gets to steal my joy." Within an hour, the comments exploded. "So sorry, Queen. Don't let the haters win. Jealousy is ugly. Families should support each other. Your sister sounds toxic. Cut her off." My phone started ringing. Aunts, uncles, cousins, my mother's friends. "Holly, how could you? Megan is devastated. Why are you doing this to your family?" Not one person asked for my side. Not one person questioned the narrative. I didn't respond to any of it. Instead, I screenshotted everything. The post, the comments, the private messages from relatives calling me selfish, jealous, pathetic. Every single word. My cousin David called, trying to play mediator. "Holly, can't you just apologize for the family's sake?" "Apologize for what?" "For whatever you did to upset Megan." "David, they sold my home while I was in surgery. They forged my signature." Silence. "Well," he said finally, "I'm sure there's two sides to every story." I hung up. Two sides. Everyone wanted two sides, but no one wanted to hear mine. That was fine. In 2 weeks, they'd hear it whether they wanted to or not. I saved every screenshot to a folder on my laptop, every attack, every assumption, every cruel word. "These will be useful later," I said to no one. The wedding was in 14 days. The countdown had begun. Now I want to pause here for a moment. If you were in my position, surgery recovery, $425,000 stolen, your entire family turning against you, what would you do? A. Sue immediately. B. Wait until the wedding. C. Forgive and move on. Drop your answer in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what you'd choose. And if you're still with me, hit that like button. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. Let's continue. 2 days before the wedding, there was a rehearsal dinner. I didn't want to go. Every step still hurt. My back screamed with every movement. But I needed to see the battlefield before the battle. The restaurant was upscale Italian, private room, 25 people, white tablecloths, candles everywhere. Megan had posted the bill on her wedding planning story, $12,000 for one dinner. I arrived late, walking slowly with my cane. The room went quiet when I appeared in the doorway. My mother's eyes widened, my father's jaw tightened. Megan grabbed Daniel's arm and whispered something. "Holly!" My mother recovered first, her smile sharp as glass. "We didn't think you'd make it, with your condition." "I wouldn't miss it." I made my way to an empty seat at the far end of the table. Every step deliberate, every face watching. My father stood to make a toast. "Tonight, we celebrate family." He raised his glass, avoiding my eyes. "We celebrate sacrifice. Everything we've done for our children." Megan beamed. This wedding represents our family's love and commitment. Many people contributed to make it possible. His gaze flickered to me for just a second. Family takes care of family. I raised my glass with everyone else, said nothing. But Daniel, the groom, was looking at me strangely, curiously, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Megan leaned over and kissed his cheek, pulling his attention back. At the end of the night, as people gathered their coats, Megan approached me. "I'm surprised you came." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I have a gift for you," I said, "for the wedding." "A gift?" Suspicion flickered across her face. "Something special. You'll see on Saturday." I walked out before she could respond. My back was on fire, but it was worth it. April 12th, wedding day. The venue was a 5-star hotel with a garden courtyard, the kind of place where money whispers from every flower arrangement. White roses cascaded from iron archways, crystal chandeliers hung from temporary pavilions. A string quartet played Pachelbel. 200 guests. Megan had insisted on 200. "Anything less looks cheap," she'd told our mother. 200 people to witness the perfect wedding paid for with stolen money. I arrived with Aunt Patricia. She wore a navy blazer. I wore a simple navy dress. A coincidence. Or maybe not. Either way, we looked like a team. We were. "Ready?" she murmured as we walked through the garden entrance. "Yes." In my small clutch purse, a manila envelope containing documents that would change everything. The ceremony seating was arranged in curved rows, facing a flower-draped altar. I took a seat in the very last row, the furthest point from the family. Patricia sat beside me. I saw my parents in the front row, my mother in champagne silk, dabbing at her eyes already, my father in a tuxedo that probably cost more than my first car, and Megan, walking down the aisle in $22,000 of white lace, a veil trailing behind her like a cloud. She looked beautiful. She looked triumphant. As she passed my row, her eyes found mine. A small, satisfied smile crossed her lips. I smiled back. Daniel waited at the altar, nervous and hopeful. He had no idea what his bride really was, what his new family had done. The officiant began the ceremony. When he reached the part about objections, "Speak now or forever hold your peace," several heads turned toward me. I didn't move. Megan's smile grew wider. "Not yet," I thought. "Not here. Your moment will come at the reception. In front of everyone. Where it belongs." The ceremony was beautiful. I'll give them that. Vows were exchanged. Rings were placed. Daniel kissed his bride while 200 people applauded. My mother wept. My father beamed, the picture of proud parents. I watched from the back row, my face neutral, my heart steady. Patricia squeezed my hand once. After the ceremony, guests migrated to the reception tent, a massive white structure with chandeliers, round tables draped in ivory, a dance floor that could hold 50 people. The head table was elevated on a small platform, bride and groom in the center, parents flanking them, a throne for the royal family. I found my seat, table 14, near the kitchen entrance, the table for relatives no one wanted to talk to, my companions, a great-uncle with hearing aids, a second cousin who was clearly drunk already, and Aunt Patricia, who had requested to sit with me. "They put you in Siberia," Patricia muttered. I expected nothing less. Dinner was served, filet mignon and lobster tail, $300 bottles of wine, a wedding cake that looked like an architectural monument. Megan laughed at the head table, her hand constantly touching Daniel's arm, claiming him, displaying him. My father tapped his glass. The room quieted. "Before we get to the toasts," he announced, "I want to say a few words about this incredible day." Here we go, I thought. This wedding represents everything our family believes in. Sacrifice, unity, love. He paused, his chest puffing out. "Many people made this possible. Our wonderful daughter Megan, our new son Daniel and his generous family, and..." His eyes swept the room, landing on me briefly. "Everyone who contributed to making this day special." Contributed? He actually said contributed. Patricia's hand found mine under the table. Not yet. Almost. My father continued his speech, his voice swelling with self-congratulation. Raising two daughters has been the greatest privilege of my life. Megan, he turned to her, eyes glistening. You have always been the light of this family. Your kindness, your grace, your beauty, inside and out. Megan dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed napkin. And Holly. He paused. The room seemed to hold its breath. Holly is also here today, and we're grateful for her contributions. A few awkward chuckles. In fact, he raised his glass. I think Holly should say a few words. Come up here, sweetheart. Give your sister a toast. The room turned to look at me. I saw my mother's face, frozen smile, warning in her eyes. Don't make a scene. I saw Megan's face, triumph masking fear. She thought she'd won. I saw 200 faces waiting, expecting either awkward acceptance or dramatic refusal. I reached for my cane. Slowly, carefully, I stood. The walk to the front of the room took forever. Each step deliberate, each face watching. My cane tapped against the polished floor, a metronome counting down to detonation. I climbed the 2 steps to the platform. My father handed me the microphone, his smile tight. Don't be long, he whispered. I turned to face the crowd. 200 people. Crystal chandeliers, flower arrangements worth more than most people's monthly rent, and a microphone in my hand. I looked at Megan. She was gripping Daniel's hand so hard her knuckles were white. Thank you, Dad, I said into the microphone. You're right. I have contributed to this wedding. Quite a lot, actually. The room was silent. Let me tell you exactly how much. 6 weeks ago, I began, my voice steady. I had major spinal surgery, 9 hours on the operating table. A few sympathetic murmurs from the crowd. While I was unconscious, while doctors were literally cutting into my spine, my parents made a decision. They sold my condo. The murmuring stopped. $425,000. My home. 8 years of savings. They forged my signature on a power of attorney and sold it without my knowledge or consent. My father stepped forward. Holly, this isn't— Don't! I didn't raise my voice, but he stopped. You had your speech. This is mine. I pulled the envelope from my purse. I have the documents, the forged signature that doesn't match mine, the fraudulent power of attorney, all of it. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Guests looked at each other, confused, horrified. But that's not why I'm here. I met Megan's eyes. I'm not here to ruin your wedding. I'm here to give you a gift. I pulled out a second document. This is the deed to 247 Maple Drive, my parents' house, the house they've lived in for 20 years. My mother stood up. What does that have to do with— In 2021, when you were about to lose that house to foreclosure, someone bought it. An anonymous investor, you thought. You've been paying rent to them ever since. I let the silence stretch. That investor was me. My mother's face went white. My father grabbed the edge of the table. I own your house, I said quietly. I've owned it for 4 years. And your lease? It expires in exactly 30 days from today, if I choose to send the notice. The room erupted. Voices, gasps, chairs scraping. And Megan, finally, looked afraid. The next 60 seconds were chaos. My father lunged toward me. You're lying! That's impossible! It's public record, Dad. You can check it yourself. My mother was hyperventilating. How could you? Why would you? I saved your house because I loved you. I let those words land. Even though you never loved me back. From the back of the tent, a figure approached. Marcus Smith, in a crisp gray suit, carrying a leather briefcase. Who is that? My father demanded. My attorney. I stepped aside to let Marcus join me on the platform. He's here to verify everything I've said. Marcus addressed the crowd with professional calm. I'm Marcus Smith, real estate attorney. I can confirm that Holly Sullivan is the legal owner of the property at 247 Maple Drive. I can also confirm that the power of attorney used to sell her condominium was fraudulent. My client has grounds for criminal prosecution. The room was dead silent. Then Daniel stood up. Wait. His voice was shaking. The money for this wedding, the $300,000 your parents contributed. He looked at my mother. That was from Holly's condo? My mother couldn't meet his eyes. You paid for our wedding with stolen money? Daniel's voice rose. You told me it was savings, a family trust. Megan grabbed his arm. Daniel, baby, it's complicated. Complicated? He pulled away from her. Did you know? She opened her mouth, closed it. Her silence was answer enough. Daniel's parents rose from their seats. His mother's face was stone. We need to speak with you, she said to Megan. Right now. The string quartet had stopped playing. Servers stood frozen with champagne bottles. 200 guests watched the most expensive wedding they'd ever attended collapse in real time. And I hadn't raised my voice once. Daniel walked off the platform. Megan stumbled after him in her $22,000 dress, nearly tripping on the hem. Daniel, please, let me explain. He spun around. Explain what? That your family stole from your own sister to pay for this? He gestured at the tent, the flowers, the champagne towers. That you knew and said nothing? I didn't. I thought... You thought what? That it was fine because Holly was unconscious? Megan started to cry. Real tears this time, mascara streaking down her cheeks. I watched from the platform. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel satisfaction. I just felt tired. Daniel's mother approached Megan with the careful precision of a surgeon. We need to discuss some things, dear, privately. Mrs. Whitmore, please. Now. They disappeared into a side room. Daniel followed. The door closed with a decisive click. At my feet, my mother was still sitting at the head table, staring at nothing. My father paced like a caged animal, muttering about lawyers and betrayal. Aunt Patricia appeared at my side. It's done, she said quietly. Not quite. I looked at the crowd, the shocked faces, the whispered conversations, the phones recording everything. But close! I picked up the microphone one last time. I want to be clear about something. I didn't do this for revenge. I did it because the truth deserves to be told. And because... My voice caught, just for a moment. Because I deserve to be treated like a human being. I set down the microphone and walked off the platform. The crowd parted for me like water. No one tried to stop me. No one said a word. Outside, the spring air was cool and clean. It was over. Almost. Now, if you thought that was the end, you'd be wrong. What happened after the wedding, what Daniel discovered about Megan, changed everything. Before I tell you the rest, if you haven't subscribed yet, this is your moment. Hit that button. I promise you, the next part will shock you even more than what you've already heard. Drop a comment. What do you think Daniel did next? Now, let me finish this story. I didn't leave the venue right away. I sat on a bench in the hotel garden, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. People drifted out of the reception tent in small groups. Some left immediately. Others lingered, gossiping in hushed tones. Several relatives approached me. Cousin David, who'd told me there were two sides to the story, couldn't meet my eyes. Holly, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I just nodded. Great-Aunt Margaret, my father's aunt, gripped my hand with surprising strength. I always said Richard didn't deserve you. Your grandmother would be proud. That one made me tear up. But the visitor who surprised me most was Daniel's mother, Sandra Whitmore. She sat down beside me, her Chanel suit somehow still immaculate despite the chaos. Holly. Her voice was cool but not unkind. I want you to know, we had no idea about any of this. I know. Daniel is devastated. She paused. He's questioning everything right now. I'm sorry, that wasn't my intention. Wasn't it? She studied me. No, I don't think it was. You just wanted the truth out. She stood, brushing off her skirt. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. A marriage built on lies was never going to last. She walked away before I could respond. Inside the tent, I could hear raised voices. My father shouting at someone. My mother crying. Megan emerged from the side room alone. Daniel wasn't with her. She saw me on the bench, and her face contorted with rage. She started toward me, then stopped, turned around, walked back inside. Smart choice. The string quartet started playing again, some ironic attempt at normalcy. But nothing about this day was normal anymore. An hour later, when most guests had left, Daniel found me. He was still in his tuxedo, but the bow tie hung loose around his neck. His eyes were red. Holly. He sat down heavily on the bench. I need to tell you something. You don't owe me anything, Daniel. No, I do. He ran a hand through his hair. I've been such an idiot. I waited. 3 months ago, when Megan and I first got engaged, my laptop went missing. I'd left it at her apartment overnight. He laughed bitterly. She said it must have been stolen. Break-in, she claimed. Nothing else was taken but my laptop. Gone. What was on it? Financial records, my family's holdings, trust fund details. He met my eyes. At the time, I thought it was just bad luck. Now, the pieces clicked into place. She was researching your family before you even proposed. I think she targeted me. His voice cracked. I think she found out about my family's money and engineered the whole relationship. The chance meeting at that charity event. The way she knew exactly what to say, what I liked, what I wanted to hear. I didn't know what to say. What do you say to someone whose entire relationship just revealed itself as a con? I'm sorry, I finally managed. Don't be. You saved me. He stood up. I've already talked to my parents' lawyer. We're filing for annulment on grounds of fraud. The marriage isn't even 12 hours old. And Megan? My family is demanding she return what they contributed to the wedding, $150,000. He paused. I don't think she has it. He walked away into the darkness. Megan had finally met a Mark who could fight back. The fallout was swift. By Monday, the story had spread through our extended family like wildfire. A guest had recorded my speech on their phone and shared it in a family group chat. From there, someone leaked it publicly. I never found out who. Within days, it had thousands of views, forwarded and re-forwarded with shocked emojis. My father's boss called him in for a meeting. Richard Sullivan was a middle manager at an insurance company. Respectable, boring, forgettable. Except now he was the man who'd committed fraud against his own daughter. We're placing you on administrative leave pending an ethics review, they told him. His 32 years at the company didn't matter. Reputation did. My mother lost her book club, the tennis group, the charity committee she'd chaired for 15 years. The phone calls stopped. The invitations dried up. And Megan? Her real Instagram followers, the few thousand actual humans among her 12,000, started disappearing. The bots she'd bought stayed, of course. They don't have consciences. Someone had found the wedding video and posted it publicly. Comments poured in. Imagine stealing from your own sister during her surgery. This is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. Girl got exactly what she deserved. The annulment went through in record time. Daniel's family had excellent lawyers. Megan was left with nothing. No husband, no money, no reputation. 1 week after the wedding, she got her first job in 6 years. Retail associate at a department store. Minimum wage, commission-based. I heard she cried when she told our mother. As for me, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication. Just emptiness. I didn't want this. I never wanted any of this. All I'd ever wanted was to be seen, to be valued, to be treated like I mattered. But some families are incapable of that. Some families only understand power. And now, finally, they understood who had it. 30 days after the wedding, my phone rang. My father's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer. Holly. His voice was different, older, smaller. We need to talk about the house. What about it? The notice says we have to leave. A long pause. We don't have anywhere to go. I'd sent the eviction notice the day after the wedding. Legal, proper. A 30-day window, just as Marcus had advised. That's not my problem, Dad. It is your problem. A flash of the old anger. You're evicting your own parents. What kind of daughter does that? The kind whose parents stole $425,000 from her. We didn't steal. You forged my signature while I was in surgery. That is the legal definition of theft and fraud. I kept my voice flat. You're lucky I'm not pressing charges. Silence. Please. The words seemed to cost him everything. Just give us more time. A few more months. No. Holly, you had 4 years. 4 years of living in a house I paid for, paying rent to a daughter you treated like nothing. I saved you from foreclosure, and you repaid me by stealing my home. We didn't know it was you. Would it have mattered? He couldn't answer that. We both knew the truth. 30 days, Dad. Find somewhere else to live. If you do this, you're no longer my daughter. I almost laughed. I was never your daughter. I was just the one you used when you needed something. I hung up. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I felt nothing but the cool certainty of a boundary finally drawn. Some lines, once crossed, can never be uncrossed. 2 months after the wedding, I walked through my parents' former house. They'd moved out 3 days prior, a small apartment in a suburb 30 miles away. They'd taken everything they could fit. The house echoed with emptiness. I stood in the living room where I'd spent my childhood, the spot where the Christmas tree always went, the window seat where I'd read hundreds of books, the staircase I'd climbed thousands of times. Aunt Patricia stood beside me. "How do you feel?" she asked. "I don't know." I touched the wall. I thought I'd feel something. Vindication. Satisfaction. Something. And? "I just feel sad." She nodded. "That makes sense. You didn't just lose your parents. You lost the hope that they'd ever love you the way you deserved." I turned away from the empty room. "What are you going to do with the house?" Patricia asked. "Rent it out." I found a young couple, first-time renters, both teachers. They seemed kind. I paused. "The rental income will go to a charity, a foundation that helps women who've experienced financial abuse in their families." Patricia smiled. "That's beautiful, Holly." My recovery was nearly complete. I could walk without the cane now. The pain was manageable. My body was healing. My heart was taking longer. Megan had texted me once, 2 weeks after the wedding. "I hope you're happy. You destroyed everything." I didn't respond. Daniel had sent a short email. "Thank you for the truth. I know it cost you. I won't forget it." I'd saved that one. I locked the front door of my parents' house, my house, and walked to my car. The spring sun was warm. Birds sang in the maple tree. Life, somehow, continued. 3 months after the wedding, I saw my mother. I was walking in the park near my new apartment, a smaller place, temporary while I figured out my next move. The condo money was gone, but I still had my job, my savings, my self-respect. She was sitting on a bench by the fountain, alone. She looked older, smaller. Her hair had more gray than I remembered. Her clothes were less polished, a simple cardigan instead of the tailored blazers she'd always worn. Our eyes met. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then I walked over. I don't know why. Maybe closure. Maybe curiosity. Maybe some small, stubborn part of me still hoped. I sat down, leaving space between us. She stared straight ahead. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I live nearby now." Silence. The fountain burbled. Children laughed somewhere in the distance. Are you okay?" She finally turned to look at me. Her eyes were red-rimmed, tired. "I'm okay." "Holly," her voice cracked. "I never meant. I didn't want." I waited. Part of me desperately wanted an apology, a real one. Something that acknowledged the decades of neglect, the theft, the betrayal. But she just shook her head and looked away. "You should go home, Mom. It's getting cold." She nodded slowly, rose from the bench, paused. "I wish," she started. "I know." She walked away without finishing the sentence. I watched her until she disappeared around the bend in the path. I sat there for a long time, feeling the cool air on my face. I didn't hate her. I didn't love her either. I was just done. Some relationships can't be repaired. Some damage is too deep. And that's okay too. So that's my story. If you're waiting for a happy ending where we all reconcile and become a loving family, I'm sorry. That's not how life works. My parents live in their small apartment. We don't speak. I hear updates from Aunt Patricia sometimes, but I've stopped asking. Megan is still working retail. She's been in therapy, Patricia tells me. Whether that helps, I don't know. I hope it does. Not for her sake, for the sake of whoever she becomes next. Daniel remarried 2 years later. A teacher from Connecticut. They have a baby now. He sent me a birth announcement. I thought that was kind. And me? I'm 34 now. I bought a new place last year. Smaller than the condo, but mine. Every brick, every floorboard, every window belongs to me because I earned it. Again. I still have the cane somewhere in my closet. A reminder of how far I've come. Here's what I learned. Setting boundaries isn't revenge, it's self-respect. Family doesn't give anyone the right to hurt you. Blood doesn't erase betrayal. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away. If you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, if your family treats you like an afterthought, like an ATM, like someone who exists only to serve their needs, I want you to know, you deserve better. You are allowed to say no, and you don't have to light yourself on fire to keep others warm. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you've ever had to set a boundary with family, tell me about it. You're not alone. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Before I go, here are the lessons I want you to remember. First, no one has the right to take what you've worked for, not even family. Second, setting boundaries doesn't make you cruel. It makes you strong. Third, sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's preparation. Thank you so much for staying with me through this entire story. It means more than you know. If this resonated with you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. I share stories like this every week. Check the description for more family drama stories. And if you have a story of your own, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Take care of yourself. You matter. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. See you in the next one.